It's time once again, as now we're going to bump up the combos for Pier K9, as we're going to be jumping into it as we look at what Jax and Naroi do to make this deck more powerful post Dooms of Dimension. So I do hope you guys enjoy as we're going to go through the combos and showcase the kind of the new power that you're going to be able to get and what has really been done to make Pier K9 a stronger strategy. Now, before I get into it, as always, remember, let's get the shameless plugs out of the way. Go ahead, like, subscribe. Remember to go ahead and join the Ad Army. Remember, add yourself, as we are on the storm to 1,000 subs, and it always is better for you to join up, as this is the only army you can add yourself to. But now we're going to get over it, so we're going to go straight to it, as we're going to look over the monsters, starting with Jax. So Jax is pretty much, I would read the effects, but I'm just going to have you read it, because the importance of Jax is simple. It is the brand new Xyz monster. This one takes just 2 level 5, so it is technically generic with your other monsters in other version decks, but in pure, you're going to be using this with only K9 monsters. Point aside is, when you Xyz summon this card, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, you detach a material from it, and then you target one monster on the field and destroy it. It is a monster destroyer. Remember, this also can target your own monsters. It just says then target one monster on the field. So funny enough, you could even destroy itself if you wanted to for some reason. I don't know why you would do that, but you could. Additionally, for its effect as an Xyz material, if you make a K9 Xyz monster that has this card as a material, it gains this effect during any turn in which your opponent has activated a monster effect in the hand or graveyard. Any battle damage this card inflicts is doubled, so this is your OTK enabler, which I'll showcase later in a combo. And additionally, we have K9 number 4 Naroi. This one effectively allows you to also be able to normal summon it if your opponent has 2 or more cards in their hand, so very standard for the K9 archetype. But additionally, on top of that, when it's normal summoned, you special summon a non-machine K9 monster from your deck, so basically anything but Naroi. However, you cannot special summon from the extra deck except K9 monsters while you control that face-up monster. So not Naroi, the specific monster you summon. And then with its effect, you can send one face-up K9 card you control to the graveyard, and you get to look at your opponent's hand. So extremely good to do that. But we're going to be jumping into the benefits really quick so I can explain before I get into the combos. So starting with Naroi, the first thing that is important is that Naroi is a 1-card starter. This allows you to go through the 1-card combo, which I'll showcase with how you do it, which is actually really cool. Additionally, it searches the entire archetype, so everything is recruitable. Sorry, not searchable, is recruitable, so you can deploy any of the archetype from the deck, which is actually huge for this deck, because like I said, this is a pseudo going second deck, so effectively this is a great way to get your OTK live. But the point is, you're also able to just access any part of the deck that you would like to and set up any piece that you need. Additionally, it has a useful hand look effect, which is something that cannot be denied. I think when you look at how important the hand effect look can be, I think it's something that gets overlooked a lot, but it is very solid nonetheless. And additionally, it just screams interact now. This is something that if your opponent does not hand trap, they could be in bad situation. Yes, this eats your normal summon, but remember, with the other monsters, you do not have to waste your normal summon on them. So basically, if they do not hand trap your Naroi, they could be in a bad position. And if they choose to use monster effects, which might be the only thing they have instead of like imperms or something, this could be bad and they might give you what you want. Now going to Jax, the first thing is it is a monster pop on summon or an opponent's monster activation, which is basically the point of Jax. It is in a pseudo disruption basically, and it is an extra Xyz, which is important in pure because like I said, you can cycle through your Xyz monsters in pure K9 extremely fast. And yeah, you want to make sure that you have an additional monster, and Jax is actually the monster that fits that little additional one, like as you just add a copy of it, because it just helps out if you have it. Additionally, enables the OTK through increased damage, which is why you can get away with playing 1 Jax if you want. You don't need to play more than 1. It's just important that if you lose Jax, you won't have the additional combo or the pop, but 1 Jax is more than enough. It does not replace, I think, something like Hound, if anyone's wondering, because Hound actually serves another purpose in the deck, being kind of like a stall card, but Jax is a disruption for sure. Now let's go over the first combo. The first combo is very simple because it's achievable with 2 1-card starters, which is very good. Because we now have access to Naroi, Case of K9 is now a 1-card starter, so it is fantastic to have access to that. But you could also start this combo by just having Naroi in your hand. So basically these 2 increase your 1-card combo, so you have 6 of them available, which is really great. Starting off, we're going to have the Naroi in hand, and you'll proceed to normal summon Naroi. With this effect, we can have many targets pulled out from the deck, but for this combo, for just explaining how you're going to do this, you're going to pull out Lupus from the deck. Now, you might be wondering, why would we pull out Lupus instead of pulling out like Lantern or Joe to search, or even Izuna to send Lupus? The point is this: if you're going first and your opponent chooses to not interact with you because they know how K9 works, there's a chance that they might not even hand trap you at all, so they might just leave you alone for the most part. And if this is the case, you want Lupus in rotation so that when the next play begins, you have the targeting protection, which is exactly what we're going to go with. So we're going to Xyz into Ripper, and Ripper is going to start our combo here by detaching a material. You'll always usually detach Naroi because you want to keep the targeting protection underneath Ripper to go ahead and grab any K9 card. For this instance, in this combo, we're going to be grabbing Lantern, because now that we have an Xyz, or sorry, we have another K9 monster in the graveyard, we're going to use Lantern's effect, targeting the Naroi. This is also important that you detach Naroi or Lupus because they're Earths, so if there are Bystials in the format, you can avoid them this way. Additionally, Lantern will summon both Naroi and itself, and then we're going to proceed here by using Lantern's effect. This is where you're going to grab Case of K9. You're going to then activate the Case of K9 to go ahead and grab your Izuna, so now you have it in rotation, and then immediately we will Xyz summon here. Now the choice is up to you, because after this point you can Xyz into anything that's not a light monster. So this can be Valon, which is one that I usually would recommend for disruption. It could be Nash Knight if you also want disruption this way. You can also be Jax if you want the pop, so that you can set it up in case your opponent interacts with you. You can start disrupting their field. Think of it like a Trident as well to an extent with Jax, so you can pop monsters. And additionally, this is kind of where it leaves an open state, is that you can just decide what you want to do from here. And it's really good because now that you've cleared off the locks, there's nothing locking you except from Light Xyz, so you can link as well. But the point is, this is a basic field that you can now achieve very easily, because you now have access to either an Xyz, you have access to linking, you have access to Case in rotation as Izuna set up. So the point is, your deck now has access to something like this on a one-card combo, whether it's the normal summon of Naroi or the search with Case of K9. Now going into the second combo, this one's going to be interesting because we're going to focus on a 2-card combo, that being why now Joe is extremely powerful. Joe was already really strong, but the problem was Joe weakness was it could search for your normal summon, but outside of sending Lupus, and if your opponent didn't hand trap you, Lupus was usually offline. So now we can do something pretty crazy. So we're going to start off by using the Joe and the Lupus. We're going to reveal it, do the effect, summon both. Then from here, we're going to use the effect of the Joe, since we're going to add a non-Aqua. We're going to go ahead and grab a copy of the Naroi. We'll do the same combo as before, or set up before. We'll Xyz into the Ripper. We're going to use Ripper's effect here. We're going to detach the Joe. And from this standpoint, we're going to have access to two things. So we're going to go ahead and grab Case here instead, because we do not have it in rotation, because we can grab any K9 card off a Ripper. And also we're going to proceed then to do the next thing, being that we're going to use Case instead. So we're going to try to minimize the ability of your opponent to be able to Nibiru you. So we're going to go ahead and activate Case first before trying to summon Lantern or anything else. And we're going to go ahead and grab the Case. Then we're going to proceed to go ahead with Naroi first. So the reason we're going with Naroi first is that if your opponent does want to interact with you, you still have the follow-up with the Lantern. So we're going to go ahead and go for Naroi, summon out the Izuna from the deck. Now, this is important because what Izuna is going to do is bring down the next Lupus, and this is going to be huge, as if you could probably understand what I'm doing after talking about Pure before, you're bringing the second Lupus into rotation so you can use it. And then immediately what we're going to choose to do is that, unlike before, we're actually going to use Naroi's effect to clear off the Izuna. Now, you don't actually have to do this if you don't want to, but the reason we do it here is that if your opponent is still holding an interaction that they don't want you to know, they have to use it here, otherwise you're going to see it. So you go ahead and use Naroi's effect here and try to look at their hand. The reason we also clear off the Izuna is now that you're not locked into anything specifically that has to be a K9 Xyz monster, you can go into anything after this now that it's cleared off the field. And then you're going to proceed, go ahead and use Lantern's effect and go ahead and revive the Lupus that was just sent to the graveyard. The reason we do it this way is so that now we have access to the full setup, and we also have access to going into our combos this way. Then we'll go ahead and proceed. Here, you'll use Lantern's effect to search for a spell. Now, in any position, you can choose to go for Force Release or LC Liberation. I think it is up to you depending on what your board state is. If you're going second, probably LC is better because you're going to try to go ahead and go for the OTK. But if you're going first, I definitely recommend grabbing Force Release because you want to go ahead and get that pop. But then we're going to proceed here. So the next thing we're going to choose to do is proceed to proceed to go ahead and lock in here. So effectively what we're going to do is proceed to exceed, and effectively what we're going to have is just a good setup this way, because you want to be able to make sure that you go for the combo, have the setup proper, and then yeah, we're going to be able to do that. So effectively the board is going to have the ability to exceed here, and you're going to choose, like, if there was something with three or more level 5s, you can do it. So you could make jacks, but the main goal is to just make a non-targetable rank 5 again. So it could be anything here, and then you're going to have an additional monster. So if it seems weird why you would have an additional monster, keep in mind that usually what we're going to have is one of the monsters serves the purpose of being like not like a chump block, but a beater almost, because you are going to have the monster on the field. So I bring that up because a lot of times if you're wondering, well, why on earth would you want to just leave the level 5 on the field? Why wouldn't you use it for something? Well, in K9 in Pure, because of the ability of the case of K9 being in rotation, you are able to have your like level 5s get really big. So if your opponent does try to do interactions on their turn, your K9 monsters are close to like almost 3k usually because of the 900 boost, and in this case your monsters will have that boost. So the end combo resolves in this situation because you still have something really big on field. So yeah, it doesn't do anything, but it's still really neat to have. And also it can be an additional Exceed material if you get Lupus into rotation again after you detach it and summon it back. So you have another monster to Exceed with. So that's another reason why. But combo 2 ends that way, where it's pretty much the same, but it ends with a little bit more rigidity in it, where you have access to the quick plays if you need. You have case established, you have the rotation done, you've looked at your opponent's hand, you've done everything you need to do for, like, if you're going first for the investigation. And remember, you did this with 2 cards, you still have 3 cards in hand, so there you go. Very solid. Now we're going to go over combo 3, and this is going to be an OTK combo really quick. So this one's not too complicated. I think this is why for this video you don't really need to add too many combos to your strategy. What we're going to do here is we're going to show you what you can do. So if you're going second and you want to just go for the kill, so to speak, right? You see it, right? This is as simple as it gets. So Case or Naroi are sufficient for this. So what we're going to do is have either or. So we're going to start with Naroi, right? We'll normal summon Naroi, and what we're going to do is specifically pull out Lantern. The reason we want to pull out Lantern is that if you're worried about Nibiru for whatever reason, and you know your opponent probably has just a bunch of hand traps, and you don't think they have like Veiler or Imperm, and you think you can close the game, this is what you need. So they're maybe holding it for something. So you're like, okay, I'm going to summon Naroi summon Lantern. And they're like, okay, sure. And then you go Naroi, Lantern effect. I'm going to add LC Liberation. Now, if they see this and don't know what's about to happen, they're just going to say, okay, that's weird, but all right. And then you go Exceeds. Now, some people will remind you, oh, you're locked into K9s. And you're like, precisely. You go to Jacks. Now, if they're wondering why you would go to Jacks, is that you're about to OTK them and they don't realize it. This is your 3rd summon. You'll enter the battle phase, and they're like, okay. Jacks effect will not be needed here. You're going to go ahead and swing with Jacks into something, or have Jacks just sit there. And then they're going to be like, okay. So if they've used a monster effect, which is what you want them to do, this is perfect. Like, say for some reason you're going to go ahead and get impermed on something, or they Veiler something, or they choose to just do a monster effect because like they're trying to do some preemptive combo to try to not deal with what you're doing. So they just activate a monster effect for whatever reason. And they're like, okay, I'm good. And then you go LC Liberation in the battle phase, and they're like, okay. And then you proceed to immediately jump into X-Werewolf. X-Werewolf, now since a monster effect has been activated, will be able to do double damage, and it's going to be able to attack 3 times. It's a 3,300 attack, attacking 3 times with double damage. It's doing a ton of damage, and also it's going to be doing double damage, so whatever it attacks into, you're going to be smacking them hard. And also remember, you also get to do double battle damage, period. This is not double battle damage as in like if your opponent's like, oh, well, I'm not going to die, I'm only going to take 33. No, you're taking double battle damage, period. So the reason that's big is your opponent can't ignore the fact of, oh, well, it says specifically for Werewolf, you can attack up to the materials it has. So you're like, okay, I have 3 attacks. If they try to say, well, that means I'm still alive, and you're like, I hate to break this to you, but if you activated an effect, any battle damage occurs to your opponent is doubled. So that means any direct attack damage is going to be doubled, which means, if you understand my drift, Werewolf is going to be hitting, bare minimum of a hit a 0 attack monster, it would do 6,600 damage. Now, this is big because if you cleared out a monster with Jax and you just do like a couple bits of damage, that's fine. When you go into X Werewolf, it can still attack 3 times. So regardless of double battle damage not being needed, it would still be able to hit a maximum of 9,900 damage. And then on top of the ability to clear monsters, you're still hitting if you hit like another monster on the field and then do 2 directs, that's still 66 damage. So at bare minimum, if you only did like 800 or 900 damage, you're basically gonna win the game off of like 2 shots from the werewolf. And now that the werewolf's in rotation, if you go to main phase 2, this allows you to access something like Zeus if you wanted to for a 4 material werewolf, or vice versa. You have all your other cards in rotation, so you could start playing and building other boards that way. But the point is, with the OTK combo, this is all you really want to do. You just want to get them in rotation, get the setup, and then attack and go for game. Also, there aren't that many effects that can negate effects during the battle phase a lot, unless it's like something in a chain. So this also gives you the advantage against certain strategies where maybe they've already used some negates, like in Draco Tail with Mululu, and they can't hit the werewolf, because yes, the werewolf can be targeted in terms of like not being able to be interacted with, but it doesn't matter if they've already burned like Mululu, like they don't have access to do it, and they have to do that before battle phase anyways. So this really locks them into being like, oh, I think I'm cooked because I don't have enough defenders. Like I kind of did some of the math where like if you run over an Arthelion, like if you have a standard like Draco Tail board and you run into like 2 Arthelions, if they're in attack position, you're doing 600 damage each, and then if you attack with Jax, you can't attack over the Arthelion, but you could try to attack over like a defense position monster if they have it. The point is you'd have to go straight to Werewolf. Werewolf would do like 600. And if their field's cleared, you'd still be able to do that massive 6,600 damage to them. So yeah, if you do the math, 6,600, and then if you add the additional 12, we're at 78. We're almost game. But the point is, it's like there's a lot of burst damage in this deck. And also, like I said, I didn't even mention the fact that you could stack other monsters on the field if you really wanted to. It is up to you, but this is like the bare minimum combo. So like it's pretty crazy, you know? So yeah, that's it here for the OTK combo. And then that's it, guys. I don't really think you need to know too many more, because there isn't really like, I think, any neat pure combo that's like not, how to put this, that's not super obvious, because like this deck is very simple for the most part. Once you start to play it, you understand how it works. I was thinking about anything with chaotic elements, but then again, like Naroi is a machine, so it doesn't really synergize with it. And then on top of that, like every other card of the archetype for the most part gets its usage. Like EW at this point, you don't need to run it if you don't want to. I ran it just to be cheeky, and I'll be honest, you don't need it. But for the others, I'm pretty much, this is what we're working with. This is what the deck needs to look like, and this is where the combos that you're going to be doing. So I hope you guys did enjoy, and I hope you got a lot of it out of it. Let me know down below in the comments if you think there's a combo that you would prefer to see, or if there's anything you would think you could make more of. Let me know, because I always think that's helpful to get more information. But as always, this has been Brad from the Ad Army signing off, and for all of you out there, to sign on.